the brave they're not to right the unrightable wrong, to love branches from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star. Don't matter how hopeless, don't matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march in hell for an heavenly cause. And I know if I only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I lay to my rest. And the world will be better for peace, that one man stood covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable
Einstein. 1,000 times a day, I remind myself that my material and spiritual life depend on the fatigue of other men, living and dead, and that I must work to give in equal measure that which I have received and continue to receive. Albert Einstein. I'm Dr. Paul Rodberg, and I call this project When the Truth is News. This project has principally two objectives. The first is to see in a clear and perhaps precisely new way what the healthcare system today is doing. And second is to establish the highest level of credibility possible for the work I do and the work you can do for yourself. The project I'm going to deal with has a very precise title: When the Truth is News. Truth in what sense? The truth, of course, in terms of our health. Our message is healthcare education. It's useful for everyone. We want to realize a higher level of health, be aware of what enhances it, and be knowledgeable of the methods available to us. Our national healthcare system is often efficient and very often inefficient. When it is inefficient, it becomes necessary to know those other methods often called alternatives, even if the term alternative has been abused. It's important to qualify any individual, including the patient, to be fully capable of taking care of his or her problems and arriving at a successful solution. This is our project, and this is what we are trying to communicate and teach. What do I have to offer you? When I studied biology during my first college degree, a special kind of brainwashing was already taking place. The didactic approach taken was so microscopic that global vision and long-term biological considerations were almost entirely absent. The second college degree at the oldest chiropractic school in the world had a very particular strategy in regard to state, government, and pharmacological contributions. They simply were not received. We, the students, had to pay more to receive an uncontaminated education. I would like to propose a testimonial in my judgment, very interesting and enlightening. It's by Senator Edward Kennedy on the 14th of July, 1971, speaking before the Administrative Committee of the United States Congress, the subject being the American Medical Association. a powerful political and economical organization in the United States, influencing choices and policies that govern the American public. I quote, "The AMA in the last 50 years has resisted every attempt towards health care reform. The organization of our national health care system is a disaster because their friends in the politics and the health care insurance have blocked every progression towards a health care system that is efficient, effective, and low cost. Instead of being scientific and professional, the AMA has become an instrument of propaganda, and the Congress, the American people, and the American doctors have all been lied to. The AMA values life and the well-being of the American citizens beneath its economic interests. It deserves to be ignored, rejected, and forgotten. The AMA's answer was to threaten a reduction of future campaign contributions to the Kennedy Party. These words, in my opinion, represent a milestone and a battle, because we are waging a battle with my friend Paul. In the last 30 years, what has changed? America is the most democratic country we know, but even given the incredible freedom of thought and the strength of the intellectual mainstream, the healthcare monopoly is still in the hands of this organization. We in Italy have a different system. Substantially, those who organize and wield power in our government are constantly put under pressure and oriented, if not to say worse, controlled by the multinational pharmaceutical companies. They control the entire healthcare system. And what is their orientation? What are their thoughts? What are their motivations? A simple concept, very materialistic, certainly not our personal well-being, but their own profits. Today, the healthcare system has to sell to keep money coming in. They are selling products in the public market, while for much less money, people could be taken care of and stay well. Today, this is a battle we must fight. This is the frontier. This is what we call a rubber wall, backed by tremendous economic investments. Other ideas and other scientific disciplines, of which chiropractic is one, need to be brought to the forefront. People need to be aware. People could enjoy much higher levels of health in a much more efficient and logical and natural way, and more economically too. We surely shouldn't forget that chiropractic helps us also from this point of view. We can't afford to underestimate this aspect. In conclusion, I'm happy to be able to contribute to this project with my brief participation because I'm absolutely convinced by way of my personal experience, and certainly I have received big advantages. Medicine, we all know, all we have to do is read the contraindications. Medicine is something that, of course, could help treat symptoms, but not remove the cause of our problems. These mechanisms lie inside of us. Only by learning to listen to the messages that our body is constantly sending us can we live a life with better health and with great serenity from every point of view. This certainly has not been taught by our healthcare system, but from other frontiers. It's a strong message that chiropractic has been giving us for over 100 years. Become autonomous. Help yourself without anything external, which in the near future will very probably hurt us in some other way, which I'm Mimo Ponti. I'm a colleague, an allopathic family practitioner, working with the National Healthcare Insurance System. I work in Francofonte. My error was to underestimate what Paul teaches, not for intentional prejudices or lack of willpower, but like everybody else during my university studies, I was very taken by the quantity of theory in what I call traditional medicine. I rediscovered Paul one day when, despite my physical activity, playing soccer during the week with my friends, Soccer, by the way, is my passion, and I'm always well-trained and in good condition, at least in parentheses, what we consider good condition. I was getting ready to have a soccer game when I was putting on my sock, and I became completely blocked by what we call the witch's curse, terminology used even in classical medicine here. It had happened other times, and with a simple injection of Thoradol, which we all use, I had always resolved the problem. But this time the problem was not resolved. At this point, after 3 days of a lumbosciatic block, I remembered Paul. And Paul, with his advice, at this point only on the telephone, because I couldn't move and we lived very far away, was capable of eliminating my pain. Clearly, I know why, because I had had the possibility of going back to refresh those concepts that Paul had taught me 18 years ago, but that I had put aside in the drawer. Starting with 4 liters of water and honey every day, starting with abdominal ice packs, which must sound like heresy spoken by a traditional doctor, but I assume all the responsibility and with great pleasure. I really have to tell you that I wasn't very courageous in speaking with my patients. I speak every day, even if it isn't very easy trying to put together my private practice with medicine and consequently with diagnosis and therapy. It just isn't very easy to put all of these things together with these separate concepts. But in my opinion, we should present chiropractic as part of a preventative medicine package. Ask all of your questions with all of your doubts and any eventual perplexities. Paul surely has an answer for every one of us. I invite you again, if you have the possibility, stay in contact with Paul, who has a lot of things that we could discuss together. Thank you very much. My son Mauro, in the beginning of 1995, precisely in the month of May, started to have some disturbing symptoms: buzzing in his ears, physical exhaustion in his legs, and he was having some very bad headaches. The diagnosis was astrocytoma mesencephalica, and he underwent 3 surgeries, the last one on the 2nd of April 1996. Seriously, a very complicated problem. The consequences were a serious neuropathy of the legs, and for his eyes, double vision in all directions. The ability to see at a distance was reduced to 40% and 60%. He suffered from cerebral edema. He weighed 250 pounds last November. And in January of this year, he would spontaneously lose the ability to sustain his weight with his legs. He wouldn't fall, he would catch himself, but he would suddenly lose the strength in his legs. A very worrisome situation. Very serious problem. It is useless to say that I looked everywhere for help, being ignorant in the field, but I just didn't know where to look. I met Dr. Rodberg on the 26th of February 1997, and after only 1 week, there was a complete resolution of the problem with the weakness in the legs, and the spontaneous collapsing was completely eliminated, as I said. We were shocked. We couldn't believe it. From the beginning until now, Paul saw Mauro only 20 times. His weight dropped to 200 pounds, 50 pounds less than in 1996. The double vision has been significantly reduced, and if he concentrates, he can see 1 image. His vision from the distance has returned to 110% in both eyes. The weak eye has become so strong that covering the strong eye with a patch, he can move around and take care of all his activities all day. Before, he didn't feel well, and he didn't want to get off the couch. "I'll get up when I feel better," he would say. He had no desire to go out. He had a serious need to be accompanied in everything he did because he couldn't maintain his balance. Now he goes out with his friends. He can go to the gym to work out. He's very fast in the swimming pool. Now he can swim 60 laps in comparison to 5 or 6 when he started. The residuals of the cerebral tumor, the acetoma, are notably reduced as evidenced by the nuclear magnetic resonance performed in the Medical Analysis Center located on the street Via 20 Settembre in Catania. The hospital in Milano called San Raffaele confirmed the diagnostic improvement on the 7th of April 1997. They ran the NMR again and found a significant improvement. There can be no doubts that chiropractic and Dr. Rodberg's very high capabilities were the determining factors to obtain such results. In my modest opinion, the results are due to change of habits, especially eating habits, the education, and Paul's explanations. Paul explains every time we see or call him the things that we have to do at home. For example, a massage is to eliminate the congestion and the proper positions of the body where we have to work. We've become very practical and very competent. I would like to repeat that this has been a very complicated situation. I think that the diagnosis speaks for itself. Now, Mauro has gone back to school. At first, he wasn't very anxious to go back because he was afraid that he was going to do a very bad job and be embarrassed in front of his classmates. Now he's got it all together and he's doing very well. This is so wonderful considering that for 2 years he was simply incapable of performing scholastically due to a tumor in his brain. He started to get back to his books and now he can read even without his glasses. In this most recent period, he's doing just beautifully in school. This is something we couldn't even imagine a short time ago. I'm teaching my son to drive and he's driving very well. He's literally jumping over all the obstacles that used to block his life. Mauro has been completely cured in 20 visits, and at the time of this recording, the 12th of July, 1998, Mauro has been completely freed of any need of Dr. Rodberg for the last 6 months. He feels so strong and independent, and he is getting back to his normal rhythms and activities. To help all of my patients and my non-patients, I've prepared 2 educational tools. The first is a 20-page booklet which I give to everyone who asks. This year I've distributed 8,000 copies absolutely free. It contains everything that I do for myself, my family, my patients, and my friends. There are statistics, recipes, explanations on physiological and philosophical levels, and it's very easy to understand. The second teaching tool I call Project Genesis. It's been aired on 2 local television stations, Tele Sicilia Caller and Video 3 Telecaller. Each show contains 6 segments and there are 14 shows. They all explain how to become self-sufficient. The shows are not propaganda for chiropractic or for myself. I simply use these as teaching devices to let you know how we can all take care of ourselves without any expenses, underlining what we can do for ourselves. Keeping on the topic of no expenses, these teaching devices are not for sale and they are not rented. Like a public library, all I ask is a modest deposit, which is returned when you bring the video cassettes back. I'm Febronia. My profession is teaching, and my motivation for teaching is passion. At a certain point in my life, seeing as I have always been an active and dynamic person, the things in my life were not working very well. They weren't functioning. My problem started with a high fever. I went through the lab analysis, but there was no clinical explanation. I was always tired, my feet started to swell, and it got so bad that I was forced to stay in bed for 20 days. I met Dr. Rodberg and began the detoxifying diet. After a very few visits, I began to feel the difference. Getting closer to chiropractic taught me many things. Chiropractic has been a teaching instrument, allowing me to discover myself and my body. I learned an awareness of who I am and what I must do. For these reasons, my passion for my work and my productivity both increased significantly. I only teach what I have already experienced on myself. And I am capable of seeing other people as a reflection of myself. So consequently, I have more respect for myself and for others. This new way of living has brought my family closer together. My family has been and is still deeply scarred by external problems starting 12 years ago. In my family, my mother suffered the most. She was constantly on the state of a collapse. She was suffering from Meniere's syndrome. She was constantly in a state of semi-coma. Looking for a solution, we traveled to Switzerland, Germany, France, and Italy, where my mother was visited and examined by 15 different medical specialists, and they didn't offer any solution. The only answer the medical doctors gave was that she was going to have to tolerate her suffering. She had very bad reactions to the medicine she had to take. The bones of her wrists were deformed, and she had many other ugly problems. But I don't want to stay here and describe all of the gruesome details. She went to Dr. Rodberg. By the second session, she didn't need medicine anymore. Anyone who knows Meniere syndrome, its symptoms, and its pharmacological approach knows that the drugs are heavily addictive. She got rid of them immediately and started to work on herself with great willpower and the sustain of Dr. Rodberg. Slowly, one at a time, the entire family resolved their health problems. This is a great privilege, getting close to chiropractic, the ability to change things and to be aware of what's going on, to be able to evaluate problems for what they really are and overcome them, and above all, seeing the problems as having solutions. My mom went to Dr. Rodberg because she was in terrible shape and had been in terrible shape for 20 years. The suffering of these 20 years was her cross to bear, and it was leading her directly and slowly and painfully to death. As I said before, the syndrome of Meniere was the diagnosis. For anyone who is unfamiliar with this condition, it should be known that the entire central nervous system is affected, provoking constant motion sickness, the inability to be in control of their lives, a constant deafening whistling sound in her ears, and above all, the inability to eat food or stand up by herself. At just 36 years of age, this was the condition my mother was in. After 10 visits, which was the total number of visits with Dr. Rodberg, she began to lead her life and deal with her body in a completely different manner. That was 3 years ago, and now my mother is capable of doing a great many things by herself. Now she works with my father, the family is much more united, and above all, she is able to perform 2 hours of physical exercises by herself every day, take long walks every day, and she is much more serene. As for me, what I've become is a whole lot different than I was 3 years ago. Now I can run 8 kilometers on the beach. I won a scholarship in England, allowing me to increase the quality of my work. I coordinate a study group of my peers to increase, we hope, the quality of the education in the schools. The strongest message is that this information should be available to everyone. All of us in the society are personally responsible because we are all in this together. I would like to see chiropractic introduced in the school system because what I was able to do by myself, if that could have been done by others too, there are no doubts that it would create a better society, and the harmony and the unity that I have in my family would be available to all the others and their families. I believe you must ask this question. Why was it necessary for me as a foreigner and an independent to make this information available to the public? Your system of healthcare could have done it. What a human body needs to maintain good health is not complicated or mysterious or even difficult to understand. I am Senator Pino Firrello, and before becoming senator, I was the head of the healthcare system in Sicily. I believe to have taken an enormous quantity of medicines. All of the pharmaceutical products ever invented for gastritis, I think I've taken them. But the results weren't at all positive. Oh, maybe I was better for a couple of weeks, or sometimes a month or two. But then I was always back to the beginning. I finally got around to this chiropractic adventure, which all told, I have to say, is positive. Why do I consider it positive? First of all, for the first time in over 40 years, it's been 7 months since I've taken any medicine. I don't know if I'm better or worse, but a whole lot of people told me I look better. All told, my facial color is improved. I lost 15 pounds. And above all, I resolved some problems I never imagined resolvable. Above all, the constipation, the swelling, and the burning of my stomach, and the pain I always had during the night. My name is Anastasia Adornetto, and I'm a teacher of elementary school. I've known Paul for 1 year. My getting close to chiropractic occurred in a very gentle manner, even if indirectly. I had the opportunity to work with and to know people who have been under his care. It is very evident that they are doing very well. All of this occurred in a very particular moment of my life when I had a need to understand what had happened during my first pregnancy. At a personal level and at a level of the gestation of my baby, because when my baby was born, it was discovered that he had a small problem with his ear called a hypoplasia. I felt very guilty and I had no idea what could have caused this problem. And I had as my first priority at any cost to remediate the cause of this problem. First I, and then my baby and my husband, began to discuss our entire way of family planning, our style of life, our way of feeding ourselves, and the way we use our energy and potential. We modified a great number of things in our lives. The most important thing is that we were immediately getting good results. The benefits we are continually receiving, and there's a constant evolution of benefits. Many things we found very gratifying. The first is to have acquired a strong awareness of what our body really needs and consequently achieve our full potential for growth. Before, I believed to have possessed this awareness, but not like now. We have become aware of the fact that there is no need for the solutions to come from the outside. What we made true conviction was the tangible fact that we were capable of understanding what was necessary for us to operate, understand, and want to operate. To arrive at our well-being with serenity, and I would like to underline the word serenity. Having arrived at serenity for me was the biggest conquest because I acquired together with my baby and my husband physical and psychological well-being. For this, I will never stop thanking my friend Paul, the friend of my baby, and the friend of my husband. The strong point of our work was my baby, because he understands what's good for him, and he's able to control himself. If someone offers him something different, he knows how to say no, because he knows what kinds of problems he would probably have afterward, and when he doesn't feel well during his detoxifying, he asks me for the necessary massages and for everything that is necessary to be done. This is the most beautiful message I would like to transmit, because I would like to tell all of the people that have doubts about the state of their health or our parents. Let's think about the positive rules that we can give to our children. Babies have a strong sense of discipline, precisely what we don't think they have. So if we can give them the chance to choose for their own well-being, we have already given them a very big favorable point for the formation of their character and for the style of their future life. Is Carolina Calanni. I'm 74 years old and I come from the village of Bronte. On the 25th of March, 1996, I had a spontaneous collapse of 3 vertebrae as a consequence of osteoporosis. I was in the hospital for 5 days. They sent me home to have bed rest for 40 days. After 40 days, I went with a wheelchair to the airport to my daughter. She organized visits for me with orthopedic specialists in Verona, Padova, and Aisolo. They said there was nothing to be done. I would have to wear an orthopedic corset my entire life. After 10 months of terrible pain, I didn't know what to do, so I returned to Sicily and I came to Catania. After 2 or 3 visits with Dr. Rodberg, I was already starting to feel better. I followed the detoxifying diet. Before I was taking 6 pills a day. Now I don't take them anymore. After 2 months, I'm able to walk to the market and it's 1 kilometer away. I'm able to travel in the car without pain for long distances. I've become another person. First God, then Dr. Paul. I'm Santi Mazzullo, and above all, I'm Paul's friend. Everything considered, my story here is pleasant because it has a happy ending. Even if in the beginning it didn't seem very happy. I'm the father of 3 little triplets. Triplets born, and I should underline thanks to Paul, because when I discovered the happy news of the pregnancy, unhappily, we were advised, inasmuch as my wife, not being very tall and in all ways a woman from the Mediterranean zone, to have a selective abortion performed, because in the doctor's opinion, she was not going to be capable of carrying 3 babies to term. This is the situation that even today, thinking about it requires that I reflect. And it leaves me with a perplexity towards this argument. Aside from the moral aspect, it becomes very difficult just to think, watching them play, the 3 of them together. They just had their 3rd birthday. Who would I have had to suppress, and with what criteria would I have made my decision? Which of the 3 would never have been born? Paul one day found me in the worst physical and psychological condition. He encouraged me to talk about the problem. He discovered the problem and was as shocked as I. Hearing this, Paul took charge of the situation because it was evident that someone had to, and he decided to follow my wife's pregnancy and get her safely through 9 months. Adjusting the spinal column, as he likes to say, and having a good diet, he was able to bring a happy ending to the situation of today, my beautiful family. The overwhelming majority of people who come in contact with chiropractic today are moved by a concept that is completely mistaken. They think that chiropractic is something that is still unexplored. It just so happens that there is nothing more mistaken than this. In the booklet that you will find in Dr. Rodberg's office, Chiropractic, the most rational, objective, safe, and scientifically demonstrated approach to health in the world today, you'll find documents, testimonials, obviously at a legal level, including the decision of the United States Supreme Court, testimonials from medical and scientific committees, national and international, disciplinary legal actions punishing the American Medical Association for having created an illegal obstacle in the public domain. The AMA was convicted of antitrust violations against the chiropractic profession. I'd like to read you a brief comment from the American Chamber of Commerce. Quote, "No healthcare structure can be considered responsible towards the needs of the people if chiropractic is not included." End quote. Clearing the air of these false convictions, chiropractic is nothing else than a science with absolute dignity and citizenship in the scientific world. Chiropractic has had unbelievable results that absolutely cannot be ignored. What then is the problem of chiropractic today entering the 21st century in Italy and the world? The problem is simply in letting people know. There exists very great resistance. Chiropractic is the world's leading profession in the healthcare field that works without medicine. And so, for very evident economic motives, those who sell pharmaceutical products do not want the public to know about chiropractic's benefits. I invite all of you to get in touch with Dr. Rodberg, just to know a new method, a new system with great benefits which simply cost less. In Dr. Rodberg's office, you will find all of the information that you need, not only printed but video recorded. Become more informed so that you can experience for yourself. Chiropractic is based on the self-discipline of the patient, allowing you to see the relationship between cause and effect. In light of the information that you can surely have by looking towards reputable sources, it's important to understand that I am not exaggerating. If you will go to the source that is worthy of the highest credibility, it will teach you to become self-sufficient and not sell you anything. My name is Salvatore Zocco, and I'm an electrotechnical engineer. I work with and develop automatic controls for the Esso petrochemical company in the industrial zone in Priolo, Syracuse. I met Paul a month ago when I had a lot of articular pain all through my body and heavy intestinal problems which did not allow me to participate comfortably in my daily activities, especially in light of the kind of job that I have that requires very intense mental concentration, a lot of organization, and a very heavy amount of responsibility. I would get to the end of the day very tired, having run out of energy much sooner than my day had finished. When I met Paul, I started to understand a lot of mechanisms in my body that I was not able to control. I started to understand a little better the balances and mechanisms of energy that I have to respect. Subsystems of my body, the violation of which would bring me to the depletion of my energy reserves, which I had already severely abused in the most recent years of my life. Having this understanding slowly in the beginning and having the help of Paul, after 15 days of intense work, I saw my first positive results. My working life has made a significant increase in efficiency. I am able to get to the end of the day without any particular problems, allowing me energy to deal with my private life and my family and activities in my free time. We can say in this period of my life, I'm beginning to be happier and having fun understanding the interrelationships that exist between cause and effect. That is, the actions during which I involve my organism and the effects of these actions. I'm even able to predict the reactions and what they will be in positive and negative. Please excuse my embarrassment. I don't like being in front of a television camera, but I would like to let people know what happened to me so that they can take care of themselves. My name is Rosetta, and I'm 45 years old. I met Paul in 1986 after I'd already been suffering for 10 years. The diagnosis was deforming osteoarthritis. I had pain in my entire body. I had already lost the use of one arm. The medical doctors that I consulted all agreed that there was nothing more that I could do for myself but to continue the pharmacological therapy I was already following. I met Paul. I followed his instructions, crossing every T and dotting every I. In a very short amount of time, I was able to resolve all of my physical problems. And all of these years later, I lived my life fully, without any pain, without any medicine, or any need of Dr. Rodberg. I'm Seba Squillaci, and I'm a drummer. I've known Paul for a considerable number of years. We even played together long ago. Until just a couple of months ago, I really never had any particular need of chiropractic attention. But recently, I started having some pain. I took some x-rays, And it became obvious that I was suffering from discopathy. I really had some bad pain in my back, and the x-rays showed the beginning of arthritis. I got in touch with Paul and asked him for some help, especially because I'm not at all in agreement philosophically with traditional pharmacological remedies. Paul and chiropractic medicine gave me wonderful results. In less than a month, I was able to have some very interesting changes. It's important to tell everyone. I try to continue the things that Paul taught me, to take better care of my body, and especially to give great attention to the selections of the foods that I eat. He helped me to be more long-ranged and global in my vision and taught me many things that are useful for all of us to stay well. I was even able to return to an exercise program which I really hadn't been able to do in a very long time. I find great affinity between the attention for the body and my intentions to follow certain principles in the playing of music. Being free of lots of problems that tortured me changed everything, especially at the end of a concert when pain all over my body before would not allow me to express my musical ideas and intuitions. Now I know what I have to do so that I can play the way I want, and of course, more important, live the way I want. And this is something that I'd like to say out loud for everyone to hear. Thank you, Paul. My name is Mario Bonacorsi. I'm 32 years old, and for the last 20 years I've played rugby on the highest national level, dealing with a very high level of physical impact. I often found that I needed to direct myself towards the official system of medicine in this country, which means pharmaceutical products. Thanks to having met Paul, I've been freed from being a slave to medicine. He helps me to breathe more deeply, to digest and metabolize more efficiently, and to detoxify. With my friends, fellow athletes, we would sometimes go for a bicycle ride of even up to 150 kilometers. But thanks to the discipline Paul gave me, my physical and mental efficiency have both significantly increased. I would like to invite all the athletes, principally the athletic organizations and trainers, to take to heart my suggestions to be in contact with Dr. Rodberg. My name is Benvenuto Ramacci. I work as a professional musician. I'm the principal trombonist in the orchestra for the Massimo Bellini Theater in Catania. I have to say, very fortunately, that I never had any real big needs for chiropractic for anything more than an infrequent ache or pain or intestinal problem. But I'm very happy to have met Paul because I consider Paul an exceptional person, very positive, and above all, in his bringing me closer to chiropractic, how can I say, he gave me a mental projection to look more deeply into myself and into my spirit. What I do in the office for anyone who's interested is very simple. Number one, repair the damage that the body has undergone. Two, teach the patients to understand what is happening while working together so that in the future they can become self-sufficient. And if the need arises, we'll know what to do and not make the same mistakes. It's not very gratifying to help someone today and find out that in 2 months they're in trouble again. Number three, we have to take advantage of all the intelligence, experience, and maturity we have so that number four, we can eliminate all of the problems in less time, with less suffering, and less expense. Hi there, my name is Paolo Mappa, and I'm a drummer, principally jazz. I'm 42 years old, and I've known Paul for 12 years. We've always been and are continuing to be great friends. But from the point of health, I've known him for just 1 year. My relationship with chiropractic started last summer. I had a problem that I had to resolve that had to do with high blood pressure, and so I asked Paul for help. The minimum pressure was already 115, which is dangerous, and I weighed 85 kilos, 15 more kilos than today. I'd like to take this opportunity to invite whoever plays, whoever knows me in the jazz community, we pretty much all know each other, to pay attention to this message. The great majority of musicians, we all have the same kinds of problems. We travel, we eat in restaurants, our lives are fairly disorganized because we're always out of the house. I'd like to invite my colleagues to give some serious thoughts to this argument before there are some really serious consequences. To have tried this approach has been, for me, a really unique experience. With Paul, I discovered a tremendous amount of positivity in the work, something that, by the way, I never found in a hospital or in a doctor's private office or in the National Health Care System offices. This positivity encouraged me to grow, and I found that my body is much happier this way, thanks to the positive inputs of chiropractic. Repairing damage. In my office with the traditional Palmer chiropractic method, I adjust the entire spinal column, cervical, dorsal, lumbar, sacrum, and hips. This is very fast, absolutely painless, and is not to be done at home without a qualified chiropractic doctor. However, when you've repaired your damage, paid the debts owed to your organism, your body will be perfectly capable of maintaining the integral structure and position of the spinal column, guaranteeing perfect neural transmission by itself. Unblocking breathing. It's very easy, and I teach all my patients to do this at home without any risks. This increases the vital capacity of our organism. Food. I teach my patients to choose the substances that they will eat. Considering the fact that the human body can survive more or less 2 months without food and a week without water, water is 8 times more important than food. We put honey to taste in each of 4 liters of water a day, always on an empty stomach, so that the body and its functions will be comfortable and immediately sustained during healing. Hyperglycemic patients will obviously avoid the honey. Then we choose food by category. Quickly speaking, fruit is the lightest and consequently most easily assimilated, always eaten on an empty stomach. Then let's separate carbohydrates, always in whole grain form, from protein. Protein will always be added to the diet when the patient is already out of serious trouble, because if we don't wait until the body is functioning properly, the impatience will guarantee putrefaction, and this certainly will not allow the body to heal efficiently. Detoxifying. I teach my patients to eliminate the intoxication that is infesting their bodies, first of all by not putting any more toxins into the body, and second by wrapping ice to avoid any uncomfortable cold sensations and placing on the abdominal region. This allows us to eliminate irritation, inflammation, fermentation, putrefaction, and internal spasms. Not eliminating these 5 processes will guarantee that the body's condition will continue to deteriorate, so let's eliminate them all right away, especially because ice costs nothing. And finally, we teach the patients the very simple massages that will move toxins out of the organism. Exercises. When the body is clean and there's no more suffering, it's time for exercises. I'll teach you some very simple ones. And teaching, while we work together, I'll answer all of your questions. My name is Gabriele, and I'm an antique dealer. I've been suffering for the past 10 years from a very severe liver disease. Consulting medical specialists, they advised me to take medicine, but they would not guarantee my getting better. I met Dr. Paul through my friends. After a couple of weeks, I started to feel significantly better. Continuing our work for another couple of weeks and repeating the standard analysis, transaminase values dropped significantly, and echographs of my liver demonstrated great progress. It sure is a shame that medical specialists don't learn the methods that Dr. Rodberg uses, methods that naturally can give optimum results, just like they gave me. Every patient or prospective patient wants to know what it will cost to get better and how long the results will last. Let's start with some basic considerations. I know that the human body, with the exception of physical and psychological trauma and birth defects, should not have any need of the healthcare system, including me. I have friends who have read all the recommendations in the book, have healed themselves, one of a fistula and hemorrhoids, and their families. One family lost 70 pounds. It's very important for us that when we are in the office, which does cost, to not waste time. Wasting time is due to lack of understanding, fear, lack of trust in me and my methods. So for the patients who are not clear or sure that they will receive the results they want, the booklet and the video cassettes are absolutely free and should be studied at home. This gives you time to make an informed decision instead of coming to the office and hoping that everything will just work out without your involvement. Don't worry, I promise you that it won't work that way. I've found in 20 years' experience that if the patient will come every day as if they were in a hospital or a clinic, bringing their family with them to learn massages and diets, patients can expect dramatic results every 24 hours, so that in less than 2 weeks, there will be much less pain, much less fear, more security, and above all, more self-sufficiency. Healing is the same as normal growth, and those same qualities of collaboration between doctor and patient that are fast and economical simply require good common sense. If we are clear in our communication and we ask our questions as soon as we have them, if we study all the didactic materials at home, if we are mature and honest with ourselves, the work is very fast. On the other hand, every one of these specific qualities that is missing in our collaboration will cost more simply because it's slower. Inasmuch as your health is as important to you, my reputation is important to me, you can rest assured that I will do everything to make our work as fast as possible. It might not be considered socially delicate or professionally delicate to talk in this kind of communication about the actual price of this work. But if we'd like to take a look at what it costs to run a CAT scan and NMRs, take medicine, run analysis of all kinds, what pain costs, what lost time from work costs, it's really only fair that I give you a reference point here. When we work in the office, every visit is 1/2 hour. I do all of the work personally with you, and the expense in Italian lira is 120,000, which if you divide by 1.7, you'll find the dollar equivalent, which is almost exactly $70. We see each other every day until there's no need to continue. In 20 years of clinical experience, I can guarantee you that the average number of meetings that I have with my patients is between 5 and 10. What really determines how quickly I can eliminate your problems and make you self-sufficient are your age, the level of intoxication due to radiation, drugs, cigarettes, alcohol, and undigested foods, intelligence, honesty, and the respect that the patient has for himself and consequently for our collaboration, physical strength, and above all, the ability to communicate to the doctor immediately exactly what is being felt and thought of, even happening. Because on the other hand, hiding information from the doctor for any reason, being embarrassed or feeling that there is no need to communicate, is a strategy that wastes their time. If the patient is spontaneous, communicating his thoughts, the work is very fast. What you need is a bird's eye view of what really is the problem in the healthcare system today. Medical propaganda has 3 lies. The first is, problems just come. The second, there's absolutely nothing that you can do to help yourself. And number 3, you're not a doctor, so you can't understand. Let's look again. Number 1 is not true that problems just come. Actually, we make appointments with our bodies through inappropriate actions, whether we realize it or not. Very often, it's just a habit we never thought about. Number 2, there are a great number of things that we can do for our body, and all of them cost nothing, and everything's explained simply in the booklet. Number 3, you can't understand because you're not a doctor. I speak in the language of my patients' daily activities, not in physiological terms that they do not understand. A major consideration is that the chiropractic does not treat symptoms or diseases. It treats the recuperative mechanisms of the body, which permit the body to regain its efficiency and consequently deal with the problems and resolve them. Hi there, I'm Isabella Fichera. I'm a journalist and have worked many years in television. I'm sure that many of you know me. I'd just like to take a moment to tell you that I've known Paul for a long time. We worked together in television. Having taken the opportunity to get together again, I was able to eliminate some very serious problems. As many of you know, unfortunately, our healthcare system is not one of the best or most sensitive. Unfortunately, if you have not had the opportunity to meet Paul personally, you will probably never know these methods that cost so very little and that we can do completely by ourselves and we only have to learn. What I care about and what I would like to underline in my testimonial is a concept that chiropractic transmitted to me personally by Paul Rodberg, and that is the biological concept of discipline that makes our lives more serene and easier, and every day we learn following the instructions that you will find in the program that Paul has given us, and above all, the principles of this really great science, chiropractic. It gives such a big help that you could never imagine it if your thinking has been limited by the traditional healthcare system. Instead, thanks to a God-given harmony that exists between the body and the mind, you can achieve your mission, talent, and destiny. This branch of medicine, and it is, with the highest biological dignity, the roots and trunk of what we limitedly and naively call medicine, places us in a condition to constantly evolve. For this, I'd like to say thanks to chiropractic and Paul Rodberg. When we finish speaking about propaganda, education, the healthcare system, and proper eating, what I feel personally is most important is the strength of our intuition. That is, the miracle of life through which our human body explains to us in every precise moment exactly what it wants. I intend the body as physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. When I work with other people as a teacher and see what is difficult for them to understand, it reinforces for me clearly the importance of the hierarchy, the sublime hierarchy of which we are recipients after 1 billion years of life on this planet. God knows that for me, this is the most beautiful part of the work. Einstein. 1,000 times a day, I remind myself that my material and spiritual life depend on the fatigue of other men, living and dead, and that I must work to give in equal measure that which I have received and continue to receive. Albert Einstein.